So Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Good to see you. And out online, it's also nice to know that some of you are joining us on this Shabbat on Christmas Eve. It's hard to believe. It doesn't happen very often. Oftentimes it's 1 or 2 days separating them. But this year, Christmas Eve is on Shabbat, and Shabbat is on Christmas Eve. And New Year's Eve. You'll find in front of you. The prayers are in an order of worship that I hope you got when you came in. And I hope that you'll join with us fully during our service. So we're going to begin with a Hine Matov, actually two, beginning on page 10 in your prayer books. And I invite you to sing with me as we say how good it is for brothers and sisters, for people to sit together. And the gift that we have of being able to do so at this point. Here we go. And we're going to continue with the lighting of the Shabbat candles. And for the honor this evening, it's a pleasure to call on Joyce Newman as she celebrates a very special birthday. And we will give her a special birthday blessing a little later. But she's going to come up and we're going to light together the candles for Shabbat. We're going to be on page 3 and then on page 4, or on page 2, excuse me. Do you want to, can you come up? Do you want to come up here or you want to stay there? It's probably easier to go around. Sorry. That's okay. Here we go. Okay. Perfect. All right, I'm going to read first. Okay. We read first. Yes. As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us, as their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light. So may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light. I know it's going to light. There we go. Okay. There you go. I know. Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the light of Shabbat. Shabbat shalom. I'm going to help you down. We're going to continue now with Or Zarua. We celebrate with Kabbalah Shabbat, songs for Shabbat, beginning with Or Zarua at the bottom of page 14. Bottom of page 14. Join with me. Or Zarua, la tzadik, o Yisrael simcha. Or Zarua, la tzadik, o Yisrael simcha. Or Zarua, la tzadik, o Yisrael simcha. O Yisrael simcha. Or Zarua, la tzadik, o Yisrael simcha. O Yisrael simcha. La 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 la. O Yisrael simcha, O Zarua latzadik, O Yisrael simcha, O Zarua latzadik, O Yisrael simcha, O Yisrael simcha, O Zarua latzadik, O Yisrael simcha, O Yisrael simcha. We're going to welcome the Sabbath bride with Lechadodi. You can find it on pages 20 and 21 in your books. And we'll do verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. On our 9th verse, we'll rise as we welcome the Sabbath bride, and we'll face our entranceway into our sanctuary. Join with me. Lechadodi Kabbalah, B'nei Shabbat Kabbalah, Lechatzodi Likrat Shabbat, B'nei Shabbat Kabbalah. Beri che vola la Aderet Malchad, Gam B'simcha U'B'Olam, Tov Emunei Am Simulav, Borich Allah, Borich Allah. Lecha Adoni Likrat Allah, B'nei Shabbat Kabbalah. Please be seated. We conclude our first part of the service with Chatzi Kaddish, which connects to the next part of our service. We're on page 26. Yitkadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah, V'yamad yivrach Yirutei v'yamlich malchutei, V'chayechod nevyo mechon, U'v'chayedecho Beit Yisrael, Bagala, U'vizman kariv v'imru. Yehi Shmei Rabbah mevorach, Le'olam u'lam me'omaya yitbarach. Yitbarach ve'yishtabach, ve'yitbar v'yitromam ve'yitnaseh, ve'yitadar ve'yitaleh ve'yitalal, Shemei dekodeshah. Barich u'le'ela min koberchata v'shirata, toshbechata v'nechemata, damiran be'ama ve'imru. We rise for the formal call to worship on page 28. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach, Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Leolam Vaed. We remain standing and we read together at the top of page 31. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the star. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai hama'ariv aravim. And at the top of page 33, leading into Shema. Let's read again together. As you taught Torah to those whose names I bear, teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me. Did you mean the struggle for me too? Don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery. Baruch atah Adonai Ohev Amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai We continue with the Via Hafta on page 36. Join with me. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha ve'hayu advarim ha'eleh Asher Anochi Mitzavecha Hayom Al Levavecha Vishinantam Levanecha Vidibarta Bam Beshivtecha Beveitecha Uvelechtecha Vaderech Uveshochbecha Uvkumecha Ugeshartam leot al yadecha, vehayu letotafot bein einecha, uchetavtam al mezuzot beitecha, uvisharecha. Leman tizkeru va'asitem et kol mitzvotai, Vitem Kiddushim lelohechem. Ani Adonai Elohechem. Asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim. Lihiot lachem lelohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem. Adonai Elohechem emet. We continue at the top of page 39, leading into Micha Mocha, our prayer for freedom from slavery. Join with me. Standing on the shores, parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. Ya la ya ba 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 bim mi khamo kha ba hi madonna mi khamo kha nedar ba todes no rati lo to se felle no rati lo to se felle hale hutte khara ho bane oh hey ayam lifne moshe o Miriam zeli zeli ano ve'amro Adonai imloch le'olam ha'ed hey yabba bim bim bam yabba bim bam yabba bim bim bam yabba bim bam ya la yabba bim bam, ya lai, ya ba bim bam. ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל. And we continue with the Shamru. On page 42, you'll find the prayer begins that we're going to sing the part 3 lines down, which begins, Ufros Aleinu, spread over us the shelter of your peace, guide us with your good counsel for your name's sake, and be our help. Ufros Aleinu, Sokat, Shalom Echa, Ufros Aleinu, Sokat, Shalom Echa, ya lai, 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 Ufros Aleinu, Ufros Aleinu, Sokat, Shalom Echa. And at the bottom, we say the Hatimah together, Baruch Atah Adonai, Hapores Sukat Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Amo Yisrael, Ve'al Yerushalayim. And we continue to celebrate Shabbat with Vishamru, which you can find on the next page. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. now we prepare for tefillah. These prayers, multiple prayers. It begins on page 46. Page 46. Please join me and we rise as we begin. Adonai sifatai tiftach hofia gitehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak v'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel v'Elohei Leal Ha'el, Hagadol, Hagibor, Vanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Vekone Hakol, Vizocher Chasdei Avot Vimahot, Umevi Geula Livnei Vneihem, Leman Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer Umoshia Umagen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Vezrat Sarah. Ata gibor leolam Adonai, Mechaye hakol atarav lehoshia, Mashiv haruach umorid hagashem, Mechalkel chayim bechesed, Mechaye hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim verofei cholim, O matir asurim, O mekayem emunato, lishenei afar, micha mocha bal gevurot, O mido melach, melech memit, O mechaye, O matmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman ata le'achayot hakol. Baruch atah Adonai mechayeh hakol. Ata kadosh v'shimcha kadosh u'kedoshim b'chol yom yahalelucha selah. Baruch atah Adonai ha'el ha'kadosh. Please be seated as we continue tefillah. We're going to be on the top of page 55. Let's read together. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai mikadesh ha-Shabbat. And on page 56, Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu be'amcha Yisrael, utefilatam be'ahava tekabel, utehi l'ratzon tamid avodat Yisrael amecha, eo karov lechol korav, penei el avadecha v'chonenu, shefoch ruchacha alenu, v'techezena einenu b'shuvcha l'tzion barachamim, Baruch atah Adonai hamachazir shechinato litzion. We continue with the Modim prayer, this prayer of thanks. Let's read the one in the middle of page 59 together. When we behold your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and stars that you set in place, what are we humans that you are mindful of us? We mortals that you take note of us. You made us little less than divine, adorned us with glory and majesty. You gave us dominion over your handiwork, laying the world at our feet. How majestic is your name throughout the earth. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha ulecha na'eh lehodot. And this prayer for peace, Shalom Rav. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki atahu melech Adon lechol hashalom. Ki atahu melech Adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov be'einecha levarech et Amcha Yisrael b'chol eit u'v'chol sha'al b'shlomecha. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Baruch atah Adonai oseh hashalom. We pause now after all these prayers and all these words for a few moments of silent meditation, after which we'll return on page 62 for the singing of Oseh Shalom at the bottom of the page. Oseh Shalom, Shalom bimromav, Uyaseh Shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imro amen. Uyaseh Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael Yoseh Shalom, Shalom Bimromah, O Yaseh Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael Ve'imro Amen, Ve'al Kol Yisrael Amen. And now I would like to call Joyce Newman up, or would you like me to come to you? What do you think? For a blessing on this 85th birthday. Okay, I told everyone, but it's okay, because it's a special birthday. And I have known Joyce for these 5 years that I've been at Temple Beth, and it has always been a joy to sit with her and to see her at services and to express her joy. And we return it in spades tonight with this blessing. First this blessing, and then a prayer for you. God of days and years, author of life, our times are in your hand. We thank you for the blessing of life and for all that enriches our lives. Each day is an opportunity for gratitude, for transformation, for renewal, but birthdays especially are a time to look back upon our journeys thus far and reflect upon how we have and how we can continue to give back to the world using our own entirely unique and precious selves. We gather today in special thankfulness to share in the happiness and joy of Joyce Newman. Be with her always. And we say, Ad mea ve'esrim, may you live to 120. And we say, Amen. And we say this blessing of the high priests who blessed the people this way. Yivarechecha Adonai ve'yishmerecha. May God bless you and keep you. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yuchonecha. May God's face shine upon you and be gracious to you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha Shalom. Shalom. May God's face always be with you and always, always bring you peace. Amen. Amen. And we sing together. Simin tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, simin tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, simin tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, simin tov. Yehelanu, 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 Olecho Yisrael. Yehelanu, yehelanu, Olecho Yisrael. Yehelanu, yehelanu, Olecho Yisrael. Yehelanu, yehelanu, Olecho Yisrael. Mazel tov. I'm going to give you a hug. Is that all right? Mazel tov to her family who is here as well. Welcome. Sorry about that, guys. Shabbat Shalom. Last year, Christmas Eve was on Thursday night, the day before Shabbat, and if you recall, I spoke about the great subject of why Jews go out and eat Chinese food on Christmas Eve. This year, tonight, as I've said, it's Christmas Eve, and so I thought it would be nice to talk about the many popular Christmas songs that are composed by Jewish composers and lyricists. In an article from 2009 by Nate Bloom on pop culture, we discovered that ASCAP, which is the American Society of Composers and Publishers, releases a list of the 25 most popular holiday Christmas songs as determined by radio airplay. So I've assembled a lot of popular holiday songs of the past decade, and you'll see that up to or more than 12 out of the 25 popular songs were written by or co-written by verified Jewish composers. So I'm going to play just a little bit of them to see if you recognize them. You should know all of them because you probably hear them in the department stores, in the supermarkets, on the streets, kind of everywhere you go, these pop sort of Christmas songs. So the first one goes like this. Sleigh bells ring, are you listening? In the lane, snow is glistening. Sound familiar? Yes. So Richard B. Smith and Felix Bernard wrote Winter Wonderland in 1934, and it quickly became a hit for the band leader Guy Lombardo. In 46, new versions by the Andrews Sisters and then Perry Como helped to make that song a perennial Christmas favorite. The lyricist, who was not Jewish, this was his only big hit. So it was a one-hit wonder for the lyricist, Richard Smith. Bernard was born Felix Bernhardt in Brooklyn. His father was German, his mother Russian. His father played professional violin, and he grew up around music his whole life. He played the vaudeville circuit and went with his father to Europe, and he played for publishing companies and formed his own dance band. He wrote for the famous people of Sophie Tucker, Eddie Cantor, Al Jolson, and Nora Bayes. Okay, here's another one. Chestnuts roasting on an open fire. That was written by Mel Torme. Mel Torme and Robert Bob Wells, both of whom were Jewish. Robert Torme was born Mel Torma, the son of Russian Jewish immigrants, and he's the most famous, I would say, of sort of the jazz stylist male singers, and he wrote over 250 songs, mostly with Wells. And Robert Wells was born Robert Levinson. He was a songwriter, composer, scriptwriter, and television producer. Besides working with Torme, he was a prolific writer and producer for television, for such shows as The Dinah Shore Chevy Show, as well as for numerous variety specials, such as If They Could See Me Now, starring Shirley MacLaine. He was nominated for several Academy Awards and won 6 Emmys and a Peabody Award, and he wrote that song. Okay, here's another one. Just hear those sleigh bells jingling, ring-ting-tingling too. That was written by Leroy Anderson, the composer, but he wasn't Jewish, but the lyricist, Mitchell Parrish, was. And Parrish was born Michael Hyman Pashalinski in Lithuania, but his father moved them to Louisiana, and they settled in Shreveport when he was a kid. So the family moved then to New York City when he was about 6, and he went to college there. And for decades, he was the leading lyricist. You might also know the lyrics to another of his songs called Stardust, which is one of the most beautifully poetic of American popular songs, and with music by Hoagy Carmichael. Here's another one, this one very, very famous. I'm dreaming of a white Christmas, just like the ones I used to know. And it might be a white Christmas this year, you never know. Irving Berlin wrote that, and it's one of the big popular songs, but did you know that he wrote it to honor his infant son, his 3-week-old son who died on Christmas Day in 1928. And every year on the 25th, he and his wife would visit the baby's grave. And as you think of those words, I'm dreaming of a white Christmas just like the ones I used to know, where the treetops glisten and children listen to hear sleigh bells in the snow. So it creates a sort of different, very poignant idea of this song and remembering his beloved child. It eventually morphed into the movie called Holiday Inn. Most people think it comes from White Christmas, but it came from Holiday Inn first, and then also was put into White Christmas in that amazing opening scene with Bing Crosby. Okay, here's another one. Oh, the weather outside is frightful, but the fire is so delightful. And since we no place to go, let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. That was written by lyricist Sammy Cahn and composer Julie Stein. Cahn was born Sammy Cohen on the Lower East Side, the son of Polish Jewish immigrants, and he changed his name from Cohen to Cahn to avoid being confused with a popular entertainer of the day. You can't both have the same name. Stein was born in London to Jewish parents from the Ukraine, and his family moved to Chicago when he was 8. He's best known as the top Broadway and musical composer for shows like Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, Peter Pan, Bells Are Ringing, Gypsy, and Funny Girl. Now, they also wrote later the Christmas Waltz. So there's yet a second one that they wrote. The next ones I'm not going to play, but listen to all of these. One person wrote all these. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, Rockin' Round the Christmas Tree, A Holly Jolly Christmas, Silver and Gold, I Heard the Bells on Christmas Day, and Run, Rudolph, Run. So those were introduced by big names like Gene Autry, Brenda Lee, Bert Ives, Bing Crosby, and Chuck Berry. And Johnny Marks is the gentleman who wrote all of those songs. He was born John David Mark, and he had a brother-in-law who actually wrote the words to Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. He set it to that music, and then a couple years later, I'm sure every one of you have seen Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer on TV. He helped put in all the other songs into that show, into that TV show. So he's kind of an amazing guy. The next one, It's the Most Wonderful Time of the Year, was written by lyricist Edward Pola, who wasn't Jewish, but George Wiley, the composer, was. He was born Bernard Weissman of New York City, and he's got to start playing in the Catskills like a lot of Jews did. He moved to Los Angeles in 1946, and he conducted for the Alan Young radio show. He's also famous for the theme song to Gilligan's Island, which he wrote many, many years later. I'll Be Home for Christmas was written by Walter Kent, who wrote the music, and Buck Ram, who co-wrote the lyrics with Kim Gannon, who were both Jewish. I'll Be Home was also sung by Bing Crosby, and it was released in 1943. And it hit a nerve among all those who were separated at this time of year. Kent was born Walter Kaufman in New York. He was an architect. He went to school for architecture and just happened to love to compose on the side. He was an orchestra leader and then a composer. He was born in Chicago, and later he developed the rock and roll music for the group The Platters. He also is credited in writing songs of The Great Pretender, Only You, The Magic Touch, and Twilight Time. And finally, the last one, There's No Place Like Home for the Holidays. Bob Allen, a talented Jewish songwriter, teamed up for decades with Al Stillman, who was a lyricist, and they wrote this song in 1954, and among their hits is also Chances Are. Bob Allen also wrote for the Radio City Music Hall Christmas productions for 40 years. So I hope, as we celebrate this Shabbat on Christmas Eve, that you enjoyed a small tour of looking through the Christmas holiday music through Jewish eyes. Shabbat Shalom. And now we're going to hear some announcements, I think online, from Carolyn Elsie. Are you there, Carolyn?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Excellent. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, and a very happy birthday to Joyce Newman. I love Christmas music. I grew up with it because I really appreciated Cantor enlightening us about some of our most familiar melodies. I also always like it when we start a new book of the Torah, and this week we are starting Shemot. And I remember years ago when Christmas and Shabbat coincided, and Rabbi Cadden said it was the battle of the two big birds. And in his opinion, we had the more dramatic one with the birth of Moses. Nonetheless, with the starting of the book of Exodus, it's always a great time if you want to join us online to start Torah study. It's at 9 o'clock on every Saturday morning, and then followed by services at 10 a.m. And the Zoom link for that is in the email Shabbat Shalom. Comes out every week. And also on Saturdays at 7:30 p.m. is Havdalah. It's a short, wonderful service, and everyone is welcome to join. Excuse me. Want to let you know that on January 9th, Sisterhood is sponsoring a presentation by a Dr. Madeline Katz called The Comfort in Uncomfortable Prayers. And you can register for that in the link in the Shabbat Shalom newsletter, or you can contact the office for that information. Also, Sisterhood is looking for volunteers for the Nourish Pierce County Food Bank. And you can contact Marlena Matola if you would like to be involved in that. I believe that you have to be registered for that, and Marlena can give you that information. All events that are happening at Temple can be found in the order of worship or on the website, the Shabbat Shalom newsletter, or the monthly bulletin. If you don't get the Shabbat Shalom email or the monthly bulletin, and you would like to, all you have to do is contact the office by phone or email. Excuse me. And I'd also like to thank Cantor Fine for this lovely service tonight. I've had a very, very hectic holiday season, as many people have. And it's been very nice to kind of unwind to his voice. And I'd also like to thank everyone at the temple who's facilitating in-person worship, and Kat of the tech team, and those helping to make these online and in-person services happen. And lastly, if you need help, or if you're willing to help those in need, please contact Temple clergy, staff, or leadership. We are expecting some snow, and hopefully we'll have a white Christmas tomorrow. So please stay safe and healthy, both snow-wise and COVID-wise. And Shabbat Shalom. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. We're going to continue now towards the conclusion of our service, beginning with Mishaberach on page 243. And before we chant the words of Mishaberach together, we pause to see if there are names of those that you would say aloud on this Shabbat, those that need recovery of body, mind, or spirit. If you raise your hand a little, you can say it out loud. And those online, I invite you to write your names, the names down in the chat. Thank you. Thank you. others. And I'm thinking of those who continue to struggle with COVID. The daily infections have again started to surpass the summer. And in Washington State, 2 weeks ago, there was an average, 7-day average of about 204. And this week, it's up to 372. And so I am thinking of those with COVID who are struggling, thinking of also those who have no place to go or no one to be with during these long, cold, wet December, January, February, March times. And we join together as we share these words of hope for those that we love. Misheberach avotenu mekor havracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misheberach imotenu mekor havracha leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. Now I'll ask you to rise for Aleinu and V'ne'emar on pages 282 and 287 as the ark is opened. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'tekedu l'leotzer bereshit, shelo asagnu kigoyei ha'aratzot, velo samanu kemishbechot ha'adam, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, vegor aleinu ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. Please be seated. A reading before the mourner's Kaddish on page 291. Yesh kochavim she'oram magia arza rak asher heim atzma avdu ve'enam. There are stars up above so far away we only see their light long, long after the star itself is gone. And so it is with people that we loved. Their memories keep shining ever brightly, though their time with us is done. But the stars that light up the darkest night, these are the lights that guide us. As we live our days, these are the ways we remember. I'll first ask those who are observing a yahrzeit, or rather a shloshim or a shiva on this Shabbat, to please rise. And next, I'll ask those who are observing a yahrzeit to please rise. In our community, we think of Larry James Anderson, Sally Birnbaum, Vera Brandt, Edward Brandt, Bernard Broza, Louis Charnas, Tatiana Chernevsky, Theodore Cohen, Judith Frankel, Sarah Grenley, Judith Gutierrez, Rose Hollander, Dolph Kleiner, Irving Chlorfine, Bennett Colwyn, Rosalia Ladinson, Max Labid, Perry Leroy, Gustav Margulies, Martin Markowitz, Chester Michaels, Solomon Munblatt, N.J. Nyborg, Nettie Parrish, Evelyn Roderick, Sam Rubin, Skadrite Russ, Celia Schaefer, Sonia Sheeler, Abba Schwab, Rosa Schwab, Alice Smith, Herman Stegman, Jimmy Webb, Francis Weinstone, A. Lewis Wingart, Lewis Wynn. And we pause to see if there are names of those who are observing a shloshim. Do you have, if you want to share a name? Thank you. Thank you. For all these that we've named, we rise as a community as we remember those, as well as those who have no one to say Kaddish. On page 294, we read together. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, v'alma divrach hirute v'amlich malchute, b'chayechon v'yomechon, u'v'chaye dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'vizman kari v'imru. Amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam u'lamei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shemei dekudisha brich hu. Le'ela minko birchata v'shirata tush bechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehi shlama Rabbah min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom bimromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. We say zichronam livracha. May all those we love and cherish be remembered for a blessing. And we say, Amen. Please be seated for another moment. So it was wonderful to see you come out in this cold and this weather to celebrate Shabbat, as well as thank you for joining us online. I hope you enjoyed our services. Again, our thanks to Joyce Newman, and a happy birthday, a very happy birthday, as well as announcements for Carolyn Elsie. Thanks, Carolyn, Kat, and especially Aaron, who helped get my guitar to play at the very last minute tonight, so very appreciative. Security, overseen by Sean Berthel. Tell him thank you when you head out, because he stands out there for hours protecting us, which is very important these days, as well as Manny, who comes often. Since we are finishing, we're going to sing Adon Olam, but tonight we're going to do it to a special melody, since I've been speaking of Jewish composers and their music. So why don't we rise on page 321, after which we'll do Kiddush and Mozi. So join with me when you recognize it, like this. Adon olam, Hashem olach, b'terem kol yitzir nivra, leit nasa v'chetza kol, azay melech shemo nikra, v'acharei kilot hakol levado yimloch nora, v'hu haya, v'hu hove, v'hu yeh b'tifara, v'hu echad, v'ein sheni. Lecham shelo, lechach v'ira, v'li reshit, v'li tachlit, v'lo ha'oz v'hamizra, v'hu echad v'ein sheni, v'hu eli, v'chai go'ali, v'tzorhev li v'eitzara, v'hu nisi umanos li menat kosi v'yom ekra, v'yado akid rochi beiti shan ve'ayira, v'im rochi geviyati Adonai li v'lo ira. Shabbat Shalom. And we're going to do Kiddush and Mozi, so if you can stay standing. There we go. So if you're at home, if you raise your cup with me as we join together. V'shamro v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, lasot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. V'shamro v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, lasot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Beini uvein bnei Yisrael, oti leolam, oti leolam. V'shamro bnei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, lasot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim ve'et haaretz, v'shamro v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Uvayom hashvi'i shavat vayinafash, Shavat vayinafash, Shavat vayinafash, v'shamro v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Al kein berach Adonai et yom ha-Shabbat v'ykadshehu. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen lechaim. A new skill there. Okay, let me say the motzi, and I'll invite you to take a piece on your way out as we join together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz b'te'avon. B'te'avon. Shabbat shalom, everyone. See you soon.